My name is Audrey Walker. I'm 29, and I've spent my entire life being invisible. But nothing prepared me for my sister Rachel's wedding day. And that's where our story begins. Growing up in Boston's affluent Beacon Hill, Rachel was the golden child, Harvard-bound, blonde-haired, charismatic. I was the shadow, dark-haired, quiet, overlooked. My achievements, top grades, a Northeastern scholarship, buying my own condo, were barely acknowledged. Rachel's birthdays? Extravagant. Mine? A lonely cupcake. Retirement celebrations for Rachel? The whole extended family flew in. Mine? Lunch at home, if I was lucky. When Rachel got engaged, the whole world turned to her. I wasn't asked to be a bridesmaid, not even the maid of honor. At every event, I was the plus one nobody knew: shower, bachelorette, rehearsal dinner. Clearly, I was undesirable, awkward, easy to overlook. My presence wasn't wanted, and it stung. On the morning of the wedding, tasked with steaming bridesmaids' gowns, I stumbled into Rachel's room by mistake. A leather notebook spilled onto the vanity. It belonged to our father's firm. Among receipts and files, I discovered thousands in stolen funds funneled to offshore accounts under Rachel's name. It got worse. An incriminating text message revealed a last-minute rendezvous with the best man. She was set to cheat on her wedding night with the groom's best man. I snapped. After a lifetime of being ignored, being hurt, I made a choice. I would attend the wedding, but now I would seize the power. At the Seaport Hotel, 400 guests applauded, crystal chandeliers swayed, 10,000 white roses smelled of perfection. I was seated behind the service entrance, at table 19, along with the caterer's old colleagues, while my parents sat at the head table. Rachel dazzled in her Vera Wang gown. My father glowed, tears in his eyes, as he walked her down the aisle. But where was I? Was that why she'd stolen so much? To buy her place, while I'd bought my condo? Halfway through dinner, the MC introduced the best man's speech, and my moment arrived. Taking out my phone, camera on, I walked up to the head table and started speaking. Mother, sister, groom, lucky crowd, here's something you all forgot. I'm Audrey Walker. The one you forgot to include. I am the one who paid for my condo. I am the one who succeeded when I was ignored. And I am the one who discovered the truth. I flashed the screenshots, embezzlement documents, the texts. A hush fell. I waited. My mother tried to stammer something. Rachel's face drained of color. Jason's laugh froze. The room fell still. You're right. I am the golden child. But you're the real child. With that, I dropped the mic and walked out. Audrey's words echoed in the hall like thunder. You'll remember this day, just not for the reason you think. Silence followed her bombshell. Guests blinked in stunned disbelief. Some gasped. Others whispered, leaning in toward their table mates. Rachel, standing beside Jason in her lavish white gown, looked like a statue, frozen in horror. Her cheeks flushed crimson. Her hand trembled around the stem of her champagne flute. Jason looked from Audrey to Rachel, then to his best man Marcus, whose face turned pale as champagne. Gregory Blackwell, Jason's father, rose slowly from his seat. "What exactly are we hearing right now?" he asked in his deep, commanding voice. Audrey took a deep breath. Her hands shook, but she steadied herself. She had waited her entire life for this moment, not to embarrass anyone, but to finally be heard. "You're hearing the truth," Audrey said. "Rachel has been embezzling funds from our father's investment firm for 2 years. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. I have the screenshots, bank transfers, and account details. And if that weren't enough..." She paused and turned directly to Jason. "I also have messages between Rachel and Marcus. She planned to meet him in room 718 after the reception. With champagne." The room shattered into chaos. Jason recoiled. "Are you serious? Marcus?" Marcus didn't answer. He was already backing away from the head table. Rachel lunged toward Audrey. "You conniving, jealous." "Don't," Audrey said firmly, stepping back. "You had your time to speak. Your time to shine. I just wanted a seat at the table. You gave me the shadows. Now, welcome to mine. Fall out." Within minutes, Jason stormed out of the ballroom. Gregory followed. Rachel screamed something incoherent and collapsed into a chair, sobbing and cursing. Elizabeth Blackwell, the epitome of composure, turned to Diana, Audrey, and Rachel's mother. "You allowed this?" Diana, flustered and red-faced, stuttered, I didn't know." Audrey laughed once, a bitter, quiet sound. "Of course you didn't. You never noticed anything that didn't involve Rachel." The guests began to leave. Whispers flew. Phones buzzed. Some took videos. The fantasy wedding dissolved into a tabloid-worthy disaster. Audrey didn't stay to watch it all burn. She left the ballroom, walking out into the Boston night. The warm summer air wrapped around her like a soft, earned freedom. Her phone buzzed, texts and calls flooding in. A few from friends. Most from unknown numbers. Journalists would be next. But she ignored them. She walked along the waterfront, past the shimmering reflection of the hotel lights. For once, the weight she carried for years seemed to lift. She'd told the truth. She'd set herself free. This wasn't revenge. This was rebirth. The ballroom was frozen in shock. My mother stood stiff, the crystal glass shaking slightly in her hand. Jason looked at Rachel with furrowed brows, and Rachel's smile had shattered. For once, she had nothing clever to say. I slowly lowered the mic. I had just revealed the embezzlement, offshore accounts, stolen money, evidence photographed straight from Rachel's own notebook. I hadn't even mentioned the affair yet. That part was still tucked away like an ace in my sleeve. Jason turned to Rachel. "Is this true?" She opened her mouth, but no sound came. Then she bolted, heels clacking against marble, silk dress rustling like dry leaves. The crowd parted as she ran. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. Truth had a way of catching up. Jason followed her. There was a strange silence, like the air had been sucked out of the room. Then murmurs. Then noise. A lot of it. People whispering, pointing, some even clapping. I didn't know whether they were clapping for me or just for the drama of it all. But I didn't care. My father walked toward me slowly. His expression unreadable. Audrey, is this really true? I have the proof, I said, and offered him my phone. He took it with a shaking hand. As he scrolled through the screenshots, his face collapsed. The color drained from his cheeks. 2 years. This has been going on for 2 years. Behind us, the string quartet had stopped playing. One of the violinists wiped his brow awkwardly. Guests were either leaving or moving toward the exits, murmuring things like, "I always knew she was too perfect," and "This family drama is better than any soap opera." My mother was trembling. "You ruined her wedding." "No," I said calmly. "She ruined her own wedding. I just stopped pretending." She looked at me like she didn't recognize me. I left the ballroom and stepped outside into the Boston twilight. The air was cool and real. For the first time in years, I felt light. I didn't expect Jason to come after me. But he did. 20 minutes later, he found me standing alone near the valet stand. "She admitted everything," he said, his voice tired but clear. I nodded. "I'm sorry." He shook his head. "No. Don't be. You saved me. She would have ruined me too." We stood there in silence for a long time. Finally, he said, "You know, everyone always talked about Rachel. But I think they missed the real star." I smiled. He left with his family. The Blackwells were stunned but gracious. His mother even hugged me and whispered, "You're brave. Don't ever let them forget that." When I returned home that night, I felt something shift inside me. I wasn't invisible anymore. I had walked through fire and come out whole. But the story wasn't over. Not by a long shot. 2 days later, the news broke. Rachel was under investigation for financial fraud. My father, now forced to cooperate with authorities, gave full access to the firm's records. Turns out, the embezzlement was even bigger than I thought. My mother tried to keep things quiet, but in Boston's elite circles, nothing stays hidden. Invitations dried up. Their social standing cracked. As for me, I was approached by a prominent marketing firm in New York who had heard the story. Yes, people talk. They admired how I handled the situation. I was offered a new role, double my salary, with a relocation package. It was poetic. But just as I was about to accept, I got a call. From Rachel. Her voice was raw. "I need to see you. Please. One time." I should have said no. I should have blocked her. But I didn't. Because deep down, I wanted to hear what she had to say. And because the final chapter was still unwritten. My mother stood tall, raising her glass in the golden light. She smiled, perfectly poised, and spoke in a voice softened by years of practiced elegance. "To my daughter Rachel, the pride of our lives. Beautiful, brilliant, and now a bride. To the daughter who truly deserves everything." And there it was again. I didn't stand this time. I didn't need to. Instead, I glanced at the wedding planner, who I'd handed a flash drive to an hour earlier. She gave me a subtle nod. The ballroom's chandelier lights dimmed. The projector whirred to life. Guests turned to look. The screen flickered, and then displayed the title. The Truth Behind the Veil. Gasps rose as a series of images and files began to play, financial records showing the embezzlement, wire transfers to offshore accounts, followed by timestamped text messages from Rachel to Marcus. The champagne glasses froze in midair. Rachel stood, face drained of color. Jason's smile vanished as he turned toward her. "What is this?" My mother's mouth parted, but no sound came out. Rachel tried to move, but Jason caught her wrist. "You lied to me? You stole from your own family? And Marcus? On our wedding day?" I could have walked away then. But I took a deep breath and stepped forward. "You told me I didn't belong. That I was invisible. But I was the only one watching. And today, so did everyone else." Whispers turned into murmurs, then outrage. Gregory Blackwell, Jason's father, stood and called his lawyers. Rachel's in-laws distanced themselves immediately. My father sank into a chair, face buried in his hands. Jason spoke loudly, clearly, for all to hear. "This wedding is over." He removed the ring from his finger and placed it on the table. Then he turned and walked out. Half the room followed. The wedding was officially ruined. Rachel collapsed into a chair, sobbing. My mother finally found her voice, but it was weak. "Audrey, how could you?" I turned to her, calm. "How could you? For 30 years, you made me feel like a mistake. Today, I gave the world the truth." I walked away. Past the tables. Past the chaos. Past the wreckage of a golden daughter's perfect lie. 1 year later. A cozy cafe in Cambridge. Sunlight streamed through the window, dancing across my laptop. The headline read, "Whistleblower Sister Becomes Best-Selling Author. Audrey Walker's Story Captures the Nation." My memoir, The Invisible One, was a national sensation. I had signed a deal for a Netflix adaptation. My agency was thriving. I was finally seen. And Jason? He reached out months later to say thank you. He was healing, and so was I. Rachel faced charges, and my father quietly retired. My mother tried to reconcile, but I set my boundaries. I wasn't bitter anymore. Just free. Because in the end, it wasn't just revenge. It was rebirth. And finally, the daughter who was always overlooked had written the final chapter. Her way.